And we're back. Did you miss me? I have been a little MIA, I'm not gonna lie. It's been kind of crazy since the last time I recorded an episode. I've been doing a lot of traveling, both for work and for personal. Plus, I've hosted 2 events since the last time I recorded, one for the podcast. We had a women's brunch, a women's empowerment brunch. I kept it really small and intimate, just some of the girls that I know personally who are building big things, and I wanted just this atmosphere for us to sit, talk, and inspire each other. I also had an event for my jewelry brand, Amara Dallas, at a new Pilates studio here in Dallas. We did the Jewelry X Hot Sculpt event, which is super popular. The last time we did it, it sold out. And so I was really excited that some of my friends were able to come this time around. And it was such a great experience. The studio is gorgeous. You have to go visit. It's Forme, Mat, and Pilates. And honestly, I've taken a couple of hot sculpt classes here in Dallas, but that was the hardest one I've ever taken. The music is really good, but the aesthetics of this place, phenomenal. So we had a really great time, and I can't wait to do more events like that in the future. And it was really nice because I really just focused on talking with people and getting to know the girls that came. And I think I enjoyed it a lot more because I just took the pressure away of doing all the things and making sure that it's perfect. And I really just leaned in and I was like, you know what, we're just gonna have a good time. And that's exactly what happened. And it was a great experience. So anyway, getting into the topic today, I want to have a really important conversation with y'all that I think especially ambitious women, just like yourself, we need to start having these types of conversations with each other. And if you couldn't tell from the title, which I will get into, I'm going to tell you all about that. We're going to be talking about money today, as in dollars and cents, dinero, moolah, cha-ching. We're going to be talking about all of that today. But first, our daily affirmation, because we have to set the intention of the day. Stop saying that this could be big and start saying, I'm building something big. And that, my friends, is from the great and wise Frances Uzuku, also known as my younger, wiser sister. During my event, I was like beating myself up about the branding and the marketing for this event. And I felt like, man, this brand could be so big if I just did X, Y, and Z. And she was like, you need to stop saying that, because at the end of the day, anything that's big, anything that's super successful, it takes time. You need to change your mindset into I'm building something big, because that's exactly what you're doing. That way you're not putting so much pressure and angst on yourself about what you've done and what you haven't done, and recognize that you are building something. And man, it was like light bulb moment. And it was so helpful for me. And I'm sure a lot of y'all can relate to this about just beating yourself up about stuff and not recognizing that you are building something. And so for all of my future founders or current founders or business owners or entrepreneurs, recognize that things take time. And I feel like in society today, you're seeing all these like 20-year-olds who are building these like $1 million businesses, and you're just thinking to yourself, I'm behind, I'm not moving fast enough. And that is just not the reality. So yes, she definitely took me to church and she was preaching to me, and I received it. And shout out to you, because that was really, really helpful. What I'm looking forward to this week, getting my house cleaned. My cleaning service, they were off for Memorial Day weekend, and I typically have them come on Mondays, like every other Monday. And when I tell you, having people come in and clean your house, for me, just saves me so much time, because it's really important for me for my space to be organized and clean, because it helps with my creativity. But the time that gets drained from cleaning, it just was not worth it. To me, I see a cleaning service or even a meal prep service as me buying back my time. What I'm leaving behind, which I feel like I've already done this, but essentially it's being scared to look at my bank account, or being scared to look at the P&Ls or the KPIs or the whatevers of my practice or my business, which is basically the crux of what we're going to be talking about today. It is so important to focus in on your finances, and that just helps to segue into the next topic. I, for so long, was the type of person who never wanted to look at the finances, the money, my accounts. I generally was scared because I felt a lot of shame around my spending habits, mostly because I didn't know where my money was going. And honestly, since implementing certain things that we're going to talk about today, including this app that I love using for my personal finances, I have seen an increase just in the money I have left over, the money I'm able to invest in, the money I'm able to use to do the things that I enjoy because I've been more mindful of my finances. And that's really what I want us to talk about today. So I've been on a health journey for the past couple of months, and a friend of my husband and I has really been helping us because he's really passionate about eating real food and helping couples prepare for family planning, which is definitely something I want to make a whole episode about because there's just so much that I've personally learned. But he really challenged us to start cooking our own food and stop eating out as much. So I've been doing this now for about a month and a half, and I've seen such a difference. But one of the biggest differences, as you can imagine, has been in my bank account. I recently started using this app. It's called Monarch, and they're not sponsoring me, but they might as well because if you know me personally and you meet me in person, you will probably hear me talking about this app. I cannot talk enough about how much this app has completely changed my personal finances. And I'm going to go a little bit more into it. And I'm definitely going to link it. It's called Monarch. So with Monarch, you are able to link all of your accounts, both you and your partner. So for me and my husband, it's all linked and you're able to categorize each transaction. And now I'm able to literally see every single transaction that's made, both between my husband and I, which creates a lot of transparency in our relationship, but also just awareness of where my money is going. And so the cool thing about this app is that you can look backwards and go retroactively. Now, I want to preface this by saying when my husband and I first started dating, we were avid Uber Eats users. Like we were probably their top customers because we loved Uber Eats. Like we would just sit and order food, which is probably why I gained like 30 pounds at the beginning of our relationship that I have thankfully lost. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, we were racking up the bills with Uber Eats. And so I was scrolling through and I was looking at the money that we've spent on takeout, especially because now that we don't order out as much anymore, we've saved a ton of money. And so there was one particular month, because it has like these graphs, there was one particular month that the graph was way higher than all the other ones. So I clicked on it and that thing said well over $2,000. And I could not believe it. So let me confess, my husband and I, we do pretty well for ourselves and we are extremely, extremely busy. Like between the both of us, we typically will leave the house around like 7:30, 8-ish, and we can sometimes get home as late as 7 o'clock or 8. So during this time, we were avid Uber Eats users. Like we could have probably bought stock with how much we were using Uber Eats at the time. And before you judge me, we have repented since then. Please consider the level of vulnerability and shame that I feel when I tell you that we spent over $2,000 in 1 month on Uber Eats delivery services. Like when I scrolled back on that app and saw that number, I almost fell out of my seat. But mind you, that's just Uber Eats. We've also used DoorDash. We also used to go out to eat a lot. And the reality of it all was that we were spending so much money on takeout that could have been to something else. I mean, I could have invested that money. I could have, bought a purse with that money. I could have paid for half of a vacation with that money, like so many things. And yet I was using it on delivery services. Let me hit you with something that really shocked me when I saw it. But basically, only about a third of people actually track their spending on any given month. That means that out of every 3 people, 2 people are just kind of winging it and hoping for the best. And it gets worse specifically for women. More women than men don't have a budget at all. And more of us are leaning on credit cards to fill in the gaps compared to men. And you want to know what it says the number one reason why women don't budget is because they don't think that they earn enough and they don't think they have enough time. And trust me, I get it. But hear me when I say, for me personally, I had enough to spend $2,000 on delivery services in a month. So the money was there. It's just the awareness was completely out of it. But here is where it clicked and the mindset shift change is that money awareness is not about restricting yourself. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't ever order from Uber Eats or try to go on a nice vacation or anything like that, but it's the awareness. You have to be aware of where your money is going. One thing I have realized from talking to extremely successful and wealthy individuals is that they know where every single dollar goes. They are not unaware of where their finances are, and they are constantly reviewing, where is my money going? And so that was one of the things that I had to really ask myself when I was planning to buy into my business, when I was starting a business, was okay, financially, does this make sense for me? And whenever I do anything now, if I want to buy new clothes or if I want to go on a vacation, does this make financial sense? And there's no way to answer that question if you are not looking at the finances. Most arguments in marriages circle around money. That's something that you can look up. And so having something where you have that transparency of how much money you're spending is so important, but even more so, how are you stewarding that money? How are you using that money and doing your due diligence to making sure that that money goes somewhere that is worth spending? It's not about shaming you. It's about spending with a purpose. Take, for instance, getting cleaners to come to my house for me feels like an investment in my time because it allows me to do other things as opposed to spending that time to clean up my house. So that's the difference between money that's buying back your time or that's giving value versus I'm too lazy to cook dinner, so I'm just going to order something on Uber Eats. There is a difference. There is a situation in where convenience is preventing us from getting to our goals. And then there is the part where the convenience of having people come clean can open opportunities for other things. Here are some practical tips that I want you to think about implementing for the next 30 days. One of them is track every single thing that you spend for the next 30 days. You can use an app like I do, like Monarch or any other apps to help you to track everything. And it's really just for you to assess. It's for information. You're collecting data here. There's no judgment. Spend the way that you would typically spend, but just track everything so that at the end of the 30 days, you can look at it and be able to assess where is all of your money going. But you can't change what you refuse to look at. If you keep avoiding your bank account, if you keep avoiding your balance, you're never going to know, you're never going to be able to break that unhealthy cycle of excessive, unnecessary spending. The next thing I want you to do is to separate your finances into two different piles. One being the things that buy back your time and help you move forward. And then the other one being stuff that is just unnecessary spending that you really didn't need. So for instance, for me, the cleaning lady stays, but Uber Eats multiple times a week, absolutely not. We're cutting it down. If I want to eat out now, it's very, very intentional. I'm going to the place, I'm sitting down, I'm enjoying a meal either with my husband or my friends. We're not just ordering Wingstop because we're too lazy to cook. And then I want you to just pick one category or one number that you need to know and focus in on that so that it's not super overwhelming. You're not making like a whole new budget because honestly, even for me, I couldn't make a budget until I knew what I was spending on. And so you could start off with fast food. Just start off with fast food. How much are you spending on fast food? How much are you spending eating out? Start there and it'll help you to build your budget that's going to work for you and your investments. Now, the biggest thing is I am not a financial advisor at all. I'm just telling you what has worked for me and what has helped me to change my habits to help me continue to build the things that I want to build and to work towards the goals that I want to achieve. Now, let me talk to my entrepreneurs for a bit. Come closer because this is more than just Uber Eats. If you're building something or you have a business that you are running, it is so important for you to know what the finances are. That is your responsibility. Even if you have a financial person, even if you have an accountant, you need to know the intricate details of the finances of your business because nobody is going to care about it. Nobody is going to know the vision like you do. And that is super important. When I first started off in my business, I was very very shy of looking at the numbers, especially at the dental office, because where I worked, I was able to see what my numbers were even before I became an owner. It can be uncomfortable for people to recognize that healthcare businesses are indeed a business, but think about it this way. Everybody who works there deserves a paycheck. They deserve a paycheck for what they've done, and they deserve bonuses or financial incentives to do better at their jobs. When you run a healthy business, you're not overspending on things that are unnecessary and not moving the business forward. Take, for instance, there was an office that I used to work at where there was no owner doctor in that office, and the person who was in charge of ordering, this was in a corporate office, the person who was in charge of ordering supplies would order lollipops, sugar-free lollipops. We didn't even see kids. Like, make it make sense. That is such a waste of resources because those lollipops ended up being eaten by the staff that work at that office. So when you think about it in the grand scheme, now something as small as lollipops, imagine that stuff adds up. So when it comes to your business, you need to know the unit economics of everything because that's how these businesses fail. When you hear about a business going bankrupt or when they have to shut down and lay off all those people, how tragic is that? A lot of the times it's just bad money management. Someone is not actively looking at the intricacies of the business. A lot of creative people, and for a lot of women, it can be very intimidating to look into the finances and the money of things, but it's so important for the health of your business, of your family, to know where the money is going. Even if you're not building a business yet, but you plan to in the future, recognize that your first investor is yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. When you are starting a business, your personal finances are the most important thing because at the end of the day, you are your first investor. So that money that you're going to use to fund your business, it needs to be spent wisely because it's not wise to just dump your whole paycheck into this business that's not generating any revenue. You have to be scrappy. I'm going to give you an example. I'm filming in my house. Sure, I could go to a studio and pay to have it professionally recorded, but the reality is that I save that for when I have guests. I can easily set up in my home right now. I use my iPhone to shoot this podcast. I bought this mic off of Amazon for like less than $100. It's that scrappiness in the early stages of your business or whatever goal that you're trying to have is what's allowing it to stay afloat. Can you imagine if I started off paying $100, $200 for recording sessions and I'm not making any money off of this podcast? That doesn't make any sense. I'm draining my bank account for something that's not going to give me a return. Sure, it's something I'm passionate about, but not at the expense of my personal finances. So think about those things when you are thinking about building a business and how important it is to know about the finances of the business. So for this week's Minding My Business, this is a section where we talk about ambition care, where we nurture our wellness. Even as we pursue our wealth, we also want to work on our wellness. And so this is something that I want you to do going into this week is to go back and look at 1 month of spending in just one category, specifically food, shopping, subscriptions. Typically, most people's credit cards can help break it down where you're spending and pay attention to the area that you're afraid of. Or even when I just said that, if you felt like this kind of like, I don't want to look at that particular thing, that's the one that you should focus in on. And just look and then let me know what you find. Let me know if this is helpful for you or if you discover some things about yourself that you didn't know. Like, for instance, that you spend, $20 at Starbucks every single day. That stuff kind of adds up. So look into that and then let me know what you find. Okay. So I asked one of the listeners of the podcast if she had any questions, and this is what she said. How do I start budgeting when I'm too scared to even look at my bank account? Recognize that fear is totally normal. We fear the unknown, we fear what we don't know. But you really just have to rip the Band-Aid off and look at it. Let go of the shame, let go of the embarrassment, let go of that feeling of regret. And forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself for being unaware of your finances, for spending frivolously. Forgive yourself and come to terms with the fact that you are now working towards something. So remember, like I said, you could sit down and you could think about, I could have been here by now. I could have had this much money saved by now. What is the benefit of that? Well, I'm working towards saving this much. you have to have a starting point. Start with just one category, the one that probably gives you the most anxiety. Start with that category first and unpack, what are you spending on? Why are you spending so much? And what are some of the changes that you can make in the next month to save on that money that you are spending? Okay, in conclusion, you're not bad with money, you're just unaware, but you are building towards something. At the end of the day, I hope that you feel encouraged, and don't be so hard on yourself. If you were managing your finances without any guidance or any wherewithal, not every single person was born with parents who were educating them on their finances, and that's okay. But what we can do is we can make changes that are going to help us in our finances. I'm going to leave some resources, like some books that I have been recommended that have been really impactful for me, that app Monarch that I talked about, and some other podcasts that I've listened to that have really helped me with my personal finances, and hopefully it'll help you. And remember that friend that I talked about who's helping me and my husband on our health journey? I really, really want to work on a podcast episode surrounding the information that we talked about, and hopefully bringing him on to the podcast so he can share a little bit more of insight of how he's been helping me change my way of eating and just my lifestyle. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know. Shoot me a message, send me a DM, hit me up on Substack, Instagram, TikTok, whichever one. I'm at Sin_Hammonds. I'd love to hear from you. I'm working with him to get him on the show to talk more about eating real food and also what it looks like to get healthy before you plan on having a family. And if it's something that you're interested in, please let me know. And so this is the final question I'm leaving for you. What is one area of your finances that you have been avoiding? For me, it was obviously Uber Eats. I want to know. I want to hear from you. And what has looking into it changed about the way that you do your finances? Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.